Hey, welcome back. We're doing a little bit longer cut. We're talking about artificial intelligence. I'm super excited. We get to do nice long intros. We get to talk about AI in length this time. So I appreciate you hopping on with me, Sandy. And it feels appropriate that you just kick us off. Why don't you give everyone an intro, let everyone know who you are and what you're working on and all the fun stuff that you're doing.
So I'm Sandy Jeong. I'm so excited to be here with you today, Rob. I'm a Field CTO at Shopify, and my role is to kind of serve as a strategic advisor to execs who are thinking about Shopify and what it can mean for their business. And the main topic of conversation these days is how do I harness the power of AI to transform my business, to be more efficient, and to kind of raise the ceiling on what's possible. Before I was joined Shopify, I was at Glossier, the beauty brand, and loved my time there and got to lead the migration over to Shopify a few years ago.
Fantastic background. I understand why you're having so much success at Shopify with your history. I'm Rob Petrosino. I am PeakActivity's Chief Innovation Officer. That's a fun term to say. Anytime someone sees a new piece of technology, they come knocking on my door and go, Rob, what does this mean for our business? PeakActivity's been around for quite some time. We have deep roots in the retail space. We helped a lot of different organizations go through the digital transformation process, innovation process, as well as some growth on the marketing side. So it's been a really, really great time. Same side of the fence that you sit on, right? I come from a very technology background, and all of my conversations have been around artificial intelligence for the last 5 years, it feels like, right? Ever since COVID, which feels like a time warp in and of itself. Yeah. We won't lament on that. I think a good starting spot here is to kind of walk through broken operations actually look like and give like a real picture of what it means. And I'm happy to go first. I've seen this a lot across a bunch of different customer segments, whether it's smaller goods or larger, big and bulkies. I think that there's a couple common things that I hear, right? The first one is, anonymized client data. How do we use AI within this? How do we come up with a scenario where the data's been in our system for a really, really long time? We want to strip some of that PII information, but we want to bring AI into it. What happens if we put AI on top of this? How do we do it in a successful and secure manner? And how do we make sure that agents, right, these newfangled AI agents that everyone's talking about, don't make a mess and don't make it a horrible situation? And we've gone through the process with a lot of different organizations, helping them understand what's meaningful and valuable for the use case, right? I think that when you kind of move around the use case and define it the right way, a lot of the scariness kind of disappears, right? I would say it's like flipping the lights on in the basement, right? And when you have walking around in the basement, it's all dark and you're a kid, everything's very, very scary, but flip some lights on, everything's fine. It's a really, really important thing to go through the process of understanding what you want, why you want it, and now aligning to that data side. And I know that you have some fantastic experience when it comes to these broken processes historically and now while at Shopify.
I think those are excellent points. And I love the analogy of just flip the lights on. It doesn't have to be scary or mysterious. On the data side, which is really what operations is built on top of, the data foundations have evolved over time for most brands. All your data connected to different marketplaces and channels, and it all needs to tie back to your OMS and your WMS. Do you add a DAM? It's just all over the place. So many 3-letter acronyms. If you take inventory, for an example, a lot of teams have a hard time tracking accurate inventory at any given point in a day because there are many different systems that touch your inventory levels, especially if you have a complex catalog and you're fulfilling from many different places.
So you were in Glossier, right? Now you're on the Shopify enterprise side. You've seen a lot change for brands in the last 18 months. How has it really changed? And what is artificial intelligence role in that change really look like?
I think the ambition of brands has not really changed in terms of, wanting to connect with customers in a more personal way, wanting to have better outcomes for their marketing spend. All of these aims haven't changed, but what has changed in the last 18 months is the tool set available to a brand is now really, really good and available at scale. Now with AI, we're now able to get personalization at scale and maybe not even have to worry about touching PII in personalization journey because it's just contextually aware of what the customer is doing at the moment or across different surfaces. And so I think AI has opened up a lot of opportunity for brands to do the things that they've wanted to do for a long time and to interact with customers in a more personal way. And so now the tools are here. The people side of things needs to catch up a little bit, right? Because now you have to face, who has ownership over these different outcomes. How do you measure impact? And how do you, iterate quickly and learn from these tools as they're evolving, every single day.
I've seen 100% the same process kind of manifest itself. And I think what winds up happening a lot from my purview, kind of working between several different retailers and a lot of different spaces, is that senior leadership teams almost feel stuck, right? They have the budget and they have this intent, but because of the shifting sands of the technology at a pace of change that is 1,000 times, right? 1,000,000 times faster than any other technology changes we've had in the past. We have this like general, okay, I've allotted maybe budget, I've allotted someone to do this. How do I know that they're even making the right decision? So that organizational adoption, lag, unfortunately, does sometimes come from the top, or even worst case, you have the top being like, what are you doing in AI? And not being able to maybe grasp what the actual teams are doing and how successful they are adopting the technology. So I see this kind of polar opposite, right, horseshoe effect happen, right, where you have one side that's just very hesitant and doesn't know what to do, the other side that's so fast moving and so focused on making sure they're doing something. They kind of are pinching together to the point where probably not getting the best experience and the best ROI for the organization because they're on either side of that.
I think that's an excellent point, and I love the horseshoe analogy. And I feel like I always steal analogies from you, Rob. You've got some really good ones. But I think to the point of whose job is it, I think AI is so foundational to the future of everything that we're doing as retailers, as platform providers, as consumers, that I think AI has to be everybody's job.
I couldn't agree more. It shouldn't fall on, Greg or Phyllis in the corner as it's AI's their job. How do you envision the customer experience side? What does that look like? How does, good CX experience feel like in this age of artificial intelligence?
I think CX traditionally has been a little bit more task oriented. Customer has a problem, we solve it. Customer has a question, we answer it. I think AI really changes what's possible there with CX, where the best CX organizations have always been thinking about customer service and customer experiences differently than that, differently than like, you have a question, I'm going to answer it. And AI really makes personalization at scale possible. So good CX now looks like having a really good one-to-one experience with a customer. I actually heard someone say the other day that personas no longer apply in an AI world because every individual is a persona. That's how personal we can get in the way that we're serving our customers. And I think that customers are really savvy. They're expecting these personalized experiences. And so now the job for a retailer is to figure out, how do I give that customer that personal touch experience through the power of AI, no matter what surface I'm interacting with this customer in, whether it's brick and mortar or through a call center or online or even through a different wholesale channel.
The one thing that I will add is the customer experience should be enabled by artificial intelligence, and the artificial intelligence should enable the customer experience, right? They can't be diametrically opposed. Customer experience flows should be supported by AI agents, and your AI agents should support those flows, especially when you're thinking about that external customer, right? The potential buyer having a really unique onboarding experience, brand awareness experience, etc. And it's enabled by a back-end system that still keeps a human in the loop, right? That still has human judgment involved, but is revolving around artificial intelligence to make it better, to make it faster, gives a really, really unique workflow for them to go through the purchasing path. To that point, ownership is real, right? Don't just like delineate everything out to artificial intelligence, because now, right, if something bad happens, you're doing bad at scale. That's one of the fears, right? Bad at scale and bad really, really fast. What do you think the biggest, getting into this risk area, right? What is some of the underrated risks that you're seeing?
I think that from a organizational leadership perspective, there are organizations who are treating AI and treating this moment as another pilot opportunity, as just like some new form of technology that I'm going to see if it adds any value, and I'll hold my dollars until I see that value against my traditional KPIs. I think that's so risky because you'll miss the moment, and you'll be playing catch up at a higher cost. AI is moving so rapidly and it's inevitable at this point. We know that AI is going to transform everything about the way that we work and the way that people shop. And so I think the risk today for leaders is not taking it seriously enough, and not really jumping in both feet in first.
Yeah, the hesitation that is echoed in a unique way. It's like, well, like, how do I know I'm doing the right thing? Or how do I know I'm adopting the right technology? And I think the interesting thing about agents that a lot of people don't realize is, if I build an agent today, right, and it has those connections, and it has a layer of agency, and it has like an artificial intelligent model running it, that model is going to get switched out over time. It's not going to use the same model today that it will in 3 months. That means you're only going to get an AI agent that's smarter in 3 months than you have today. What does 12 months, 18 months look like? What does it look like moving forward? What does the leading edge look like? And what is going to separate brands who have adopted, 18 months ago to now to in the future?
The brands that are going to be up ahead in 12 or 18 months are the ones who have already invested, because the natural curve that I'm seeing with enterprises that are trying to adopt AI in their organizations is that they're first trying to tackle productivity and efficiency. That's already happening today in these forward-looking organizations, and they've already got their data foundations right. And so now in 12 or 18 months, they're going to be using AI to raise the ceiling on what's possible. And so, it's funny because this time last year, I wasn't sure how quickly we would see change from AI. And I am really eating my words now, because the world is completely different. It's like inevitable. And so I think the brands that have already been investing, they're going to create so much competitive advantage for themselves, not because of efficiency, but because they invent completely new ways of engaging with their customers, or they're producing completely new products, or changing the way that they're doing business so holistically. And, I think we're going to be completely surprised at what those things look like.
I think I was slightly, shocked by the rapid expansion and the utility of AI agents, right? I thought that they were going to be good. I didn't think they were going to be as good as quick as they were. And realistically, when it goes really well with a leadership team or an organization, is when there's a level of like humility. We have to ride this wave, and we know that our internal learnings are a part of our internal IP and trade secrets, which is going to let us do things in the future even better, right? So that scaling portion of it and that humility, I think, are really important to maintain. And I think it's okay to celebrate having a win and talking about it and being like, no, we did this thing and it went really well.
And also celebrate when you have failed. Our CEO and founder, he always says that failure is just the successful discovery of a path that didn't work. And I think that's so applicable to AI because we're all figuring it out right now.
I couldn't agree more. I'd rather fail a dozen times than never try it all.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe, 1,200. Depends on on which day. Okay, last one on here. We talked about some of the pros. We talked about some of the cons. What the future is looking like. What's a practical use case that you see? Right today, 6 months ago, maybe 6 months in the future. Is there anything that you're seeing as far as like a really practical retail use case that you've seen or heard be really successful for an org?
Well, I have to plug agentic commerce because Shopify is very focused on that right now. And what that means in practical terms is, consumers are going to chat surfaces like Gemini or ChatGPT or Copilot, and they are already going there for their product research. And brands are realizing that they need to show up correctly in those surfaces because right now, the LLMs are just crawling the web or scraping your website for information. So the brands who have started to invest in this are already seeing some really surprising results. They're seeing traffic coming through at really rapidly increasing rates. And those sessions are actually converting at a much higher rate and they have higher AOV. And so that's a very practical early win because it's actually not that mysterious to figure out how to show up correctly in those surfaces.
Yeah, and I've seen it be wildly successful. We've been a part of the implementations of agentic and on the commerce side, and it works. It is 100% a really good way to start. Also, you stole mine, but that's okay. I have a different one. All right. I'm going to talk to our brick and mortar folks that are out there. I have one that extends into two. I think AI assisted selling works for in-store and retail associates, right? Yeah. Giving them the ability to, one, talk to a customer, aggregate questions, and then get good follow-up prompts, good recommendations on products, right? Imagine scaling your best associate to every single associate using artificial intelligence. Managing and accessing and reviewing all of that data is a very long task. And then synthesizing it to an action plan is even longer. I think that's a ripe way to use artificial intelligence today to enable front of the house operations and ultimately customer experience when you can directly affect customer satisfaction, as well as work back of the house and really get a more diverse product catalog and knowledge base, as well as just patterns on what people are buying, wanting, and asking for to help you make better decisions in the future. So those are my two now.
Yeah, love that. Very actionable.
Awesome. Well, that's our time. Thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. I think we have to do way more of these. I'm so excited, but thanks so much for hanging out. Any final words for everyone that's out there?
Well, I'm so glad to be here with you, Robin, to spend this time. I hope that people walk away feeling like this is very doable. AI can feel intimidating, but it's actually not. It's data foundations, it's being operationally ready, and hopefully with great partners like PeakActivity and Shopify, that can be reality for listeners today.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.